Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be focusing on the second issue of Avengers Twilight, and yeah, I don't even want to waste time getting into it, so let's just start. So immediately this issue starts off with Cap back in business, suited up again, right back into it like he never left, fighting injustice, taking care of those martial law, Stark-powered guards, you know, trying to help the people that are being discriminated against, homeless people, people in the alleys, people in the streets, just looking out for them, looking out for the little guy, which is something that I always love to see from Captain America, so that's pretty cool. We also get to see some of that quiet support from other people, from random civilians, just hanging out in bars, watching TVs, commenting on the news footage. We get to see more of that fake Avengers team, people talking about that's not the real Cap, and the real Captain America's back in business, doing his thing again. So like, people are already noticing and already like voicing their support amongst each other, which is really nice. I'm glad they didn't waste too much time getting to this. It's really cool. And the fact that people are already rooting for him in such a dystopian environment and society is a really big deal, and I want you to keep that in mind. We also see that these homeless people that Cap has been saving and rescuing and protecting, he's also been bringing them back to Luke in the Defenders hideout so that they can be safe, so they can, you know, avoid being discriminated against and targeted. There's nothing better than street level Captain America. I really believe that. You know, him being the leader of the Avengers is cool, he feels right at home there, but I will always reiterate that Cap being just a man of the people and helping out where he can is so cool. So I'm glad to see a little bit of that in this issue. We then see Captain America and the Defenders come up with a game plan. They're gonna release footage. In the first issue, they mentioned that these fake Avengers were being pointed to other countries by the government and basically being assigned to start trouble overseas, and none of the American citizens know that that's what's happening. So they're gonna kind of expose that. It's New Year's Eve, everyone's gonna be in Times Square, and they're basically just gonna pull the pin and see what happens. Steve then gets word from one of the Defenders that his girl Rosa from the last issue is waiting in one of the other rooms. They pulled her out basically to give her like the same protection as the homeless people, because Steve is about to be putting a target on his back and they don't want anything to happen to her. So he meets with Rosa and immediately just hostile, like smacks him right in the face. I thought she missed at first because the art kind of makes it look like he just dodged it, but apparently that's not what happened. She's like mad that he derailed her life, and understandable, but like, god damn, you know, have a little bit of understanding, a little bit of forgiveness. He's trying to like right the country. He's doing this for everyone. And in the previous videos I said that she was his wife in this future. Apparently I'm wrong, because she just broke up with him right there. So apparently she was a girlfriend. I thought I got the wrong idea. Honestly, she's never, like, even in the first issue, she wasn't really understanding of Steve's moral struggle. Just doesn't seem like she really cares about what Steve has going on internally. You know, it feels like she doesn't think any of it's a really big deal. So honestly, good riddance. You know, I'm not gonna miss her. You know, on to better things, bruh. We then cut to the White House, where Jimmy Stark and Jarvis are talking with the president, and really there's only one point to this whole scene, which is to show that basically the whole government has been bought. You know what I mean? I thought it was the government or the FBI in charge. Nope, it's Jimmy and Jarvis. So Jimmy is just kind of there. He's like the face of this wealth, being the descendant of Tony Stark. Really, it seems like Jarvis has been the one pushing things. He's just the one that's like having to guide Jimmy. So really, it's like, you know, they run the country. But yeah, so Jimmy and Jarvis basically tell the president that they'll deal with this whole Captain America situation. They say they're gonna recruit the Thunderbolts. From what maybe I'm just like misremembering the issue, but like, I'm pretty sure there were only 2 Thunderbolts. One of them was Bullseye. I don't know if she was related to him. She just had the name Bullseye. And then very interestingly, Kamala Khan, all grown up, she has 2 kids, just hanging out, living a normal life, just trying to keep her family safe, just like Steve was. She's not wearing a costume anymore after H-Day, which makes it unfortunate for her when Steve goes to meet up with her at her house, just breaks in after her kids leave. He's trying to recruit her, and you know, she's obviously just as traumatized as him as anybody, so she continuously refuses. He tries to appeal to her by like, oh, don't you want to build a better future for your kids? And she's just, you know, she's just understandably too scared to get back into it. So he just leaves, and then when he goes out the window, he basically tells her the Dark Avengers protocols are in effect if she changes her mind. We then jump ahead to New Year's Eve. That night in Times Square, Captain America and the Defenders are setting up, basically just trying to sneak in so they can start the broadcast, which can't be turned off once they start it. They go behind some of these news station vans to try and mess with the cables. Unfortunately, they're caught very quickly, and these Stark-powered cops start charging at them, which leads Cap to get involved. We then see that Bullseye from the Thunderbolts is already set up and has a clear shot of Captain America. Just when you think Bullseye is going to take the shot, she hesitates and doesn't, and instead just decides to shoot the tablet with all the data on it that they were going to broadcast to the world. So their whole chance of exposing it has been shot. But it's really interesting because this Bullseye clearly does not want to kill Captain Captain America. So we have people literally on the enemy side that just refuse to take out this icon. So with the tablet destroyed, one of the defenders improvises and throws Steve a mic so he can make a speech live to the people. And it's cool because he reverts right back to classic Captain America giving this speech, which shows that Steve never changed from the person that he was. He was always just waiting for his opportunity to turn things around. You know, he gives this whole speech about hope, how things are going to get better, how they're going to turn it around, and eventually they're chased off. And then we jump back to Jimmy Stark just working on suits, working on armor, talking to Jarvis on a hologram, who is trying to convince him to suit up as Iron Man, take the mantle so that he can fight off Captain America, which is an interesting idea. I would love to see how that fight would work. And then after their conversation, we see Jarvis talking to some disembodied voice, who we then learn is Ultron still living as a like AI program built into the lab. Kind of like if you've seen The Flash, kind of like Gideon, it looks like an Eobard Thawne moment. And then we get another flashback to H-Day. After all the destruction, Ultron's remains were retrieved by an in-disguise Red Skull. And then we realize this relative of Jarvis that's been coaching Jimmy Stark this whole time isn't really who he says he is at all. This entire time, it's been Red Skull teaming up with this Ultron. If he's in charge of Jimmy, the guy that's funding the fascist government and controls Congress, the National Guard, the militia, then that means we're looking at Red Skull's America. That means Red Skull is at the top of the food chain. You know, he's been secretly controlling everything the entire time. So Red Skull's goal of taking over the Nazis and basically leading this new world order under the fascist Nazi rule, after all this time of him trying to achieve that, he's now doing it just without any of the credit or recognition. Back at the underground hideout with Luke Cage and the Defenders and Captain America, Steve is kind of reeling from seeing the talk online, and basically the reception to his speech was not good. You know, he did more harm than good. Actually turned people against their cause a little bit because people just aren't on board. Ignorance is bliss. They got the rose-colored glasses on, seeing like what they want to see, basically all the benefits of the society rather than all the things that are being taken away. Luke kind of has to get him to snap out of it, or rather smacks him out of it, and basically just like has to pull him out of the rut and remind him that they don't do it for the glamour or the praise or anything like that. They're not doing it because people want them to. They're doing it because it's what's right. And that kind of gets him back into the mindset of, we need to do this. Just in time for them to find out about some intel on a pod that's storing Tony Stark's remains in a secret building. They basically got the schematics, you know, getting ready to see it for themselves in the next issue. So it's really, really exciting. You know, I'm really curious to see that, you know, if they're gonna like talk to Tony and have an actual conversation with him, and if Tony's gonna be pulled into the rebellion. That's gonna be really, really cool, but we'll have to see how that goes in the next issue. And yeah, that is it for this video, and until next time, I will see you later. Thanks for watching.